Hey y'all, Bob with Million Mile Garage. Looks like we got another snow day. So it's slot cars and snow and coffee. Hey, what I got to talk about today, I have actually worn out all of my controllers. I have used the slot car track so much the last few months that the springs keep breaking inside. So I got down to my last controller and it broke. So I had to cut it open and replace the broken spring, which is right there. I tried using one of these springs, and some of you guys that are car guys probably know what that is, right? That's from an advanced curve kit for a HEI on a small block Chevy. It actually worked, but it was a little firm. So I actually found a spring out of the Harbor Freight spring assortment kit that replaces the original broken one right here just fine. And it turns out these springs actually carry current. So when these break, they're designed for the car to stop running so it doesn't just fly off the track, which is, I guess, an okay feature. Upcoming video, I'll show you guys how to dissect one of these, and also with my new plastic working skills from my that car restoration video I did. What was the name of that thing? It was called a, the name escapes me, but I learned how to use super glue and baking soda. So we'll get this dolled up really good. I'll probably put some screws in it. There's some various support points where I can drill it, and then it'll be serviceable. And maybe I'll also take like maybe a one of those rubber hoe grips or something and put it on the bottom and make a usable controller out of it for an adult. Kind of cool. Other thing I did, I know I'm kind of hooked on Z28s right now. Can't imagine why, right? So after doing the 4-gear conversion on that short I did a few weeks ago, I figured out that these came in a big hoard that I bought on eBay. And so I got a bunch of this Tyco track, and I got like 5 of these controllers, which I've already worn out. And I figured out that the Tyco curve hugger body actually snaps onto one of these chassis that was attached to one of these awful looking things. Kind of look like Christmas ornaments, don't they? And of course, the unfortunate thing is they do have Mattel written on them. Right there. Oh, well, you can see that in this light. It's a little dim this morning. Yeah, you can see it right there. This is Mattel HPX2. And these are wide chassis, and they're a longer wheelbase than the stock chassis, the normal 440X2s I'm used to using, like what would fit this Corvette. So it turns out that those fit this body perfectly, and this car zips around the track like it should now. The magnets don't seem to be down as far on the Mattel version as they were on the Tyco, so it is a little looser in the turns, but it's a huge improvement over just running it as a 4-gear or running it as the standard curve hugger. So that's where I'm at today. I'll take this and I'll zip it around the track just a little bit. Hopefully you guys aren't sick of seeing this body. I know I'm not. And what's going on in the real car world is we took the 5.0 out of Austin's '89 Mustang over the weekend. It had a noise in it, and I'll show you what the outcome of that was. Okay, we're in the other garage. There's parts scattered everywhere. Mini starter, that's nice. Pistons on the floor, that's a good place for them. So long story short, we put the engine together about 2 years ago, and the valve train was never what I would call silent. And I know they were roller rockers, which I know they're never perfectly silent, but they were never sounded great to me. And it got a lot louder, and you can see the rollers on these are flattened out. They're not in great shape. So, as a matter of fact, the Flowtech heads on the floor here, the valve stems were all tore up. So, decision was made, instead of spending money on machine work on cheap Chinese heads, we'll put a set of AFR Renegades on. And these only have about 50 miles on them. And everything quieted down nice. The new Scorpion roller rockers, they were LS2 quiet. They just had that nice sewing machine sound to them, nothing too obnoxious. But they were so quiet, in fact, that we could hear another noise lingering in the engine, and it sounded like it was from deep within. And so taking a look at this cylinder here, it doesn't look so great. You can see it got scored pretty bad. And this is the piston that came out of it. And that side looks pretty good. This side, not so good. So it definitely
suffered from, I would say, high-speed detonation, probably from some aggressive tuning and running it pretty hard. And that's unfortunate, but it definitely wiped out that skirt and really made a mess out of that bore. I don't think that's going to be cleaned up with a hone job. So I think we're going to have to take the block another 10 thousandths over to 40 over total. We're going to order new forged pistons this time. These were Hyper Eutectic. These were those Summit 17302C 030s. And ooh, the wrist pin on this one's a little stiff too. This piston really got hammered. It got hot. This piston got really hot. And so I took some measurements because all the other cylinders look just fine. In fact, I'll show you one over here. That doesn't look too bad. And I took some measurements. So this particular piston right here, which was the #1 piston, it mic'd out at 4033, and I measured the bore, and it measured out at 036. So 3 thousandths clearance, or 1.5 thousandths per side, right? But that's the number 3. And then I took the piston that was roach, and I was able to measure it about right there on each side where there was plenty of material left, keeping in mind the dimensions maybe changed a little anyway. And I came up with 4027, and that bore is finished at 4031. That gives 4 thousandths clearance. So I remember when I picked the block up after they had finished honed it, the guy at the machine shop mentioned that those piston sizes were all over the place. They were not super consistent, and I can see why. And I can see why they would like to finish each bore for each cylinder that the piston's going in. That makes sense, right? So this one is a little on the loose side here. Keeping in mind I only took one measurement, on a spot of the cylinder that wasn't tore up. So, but the range on these, I think, was 1.5 to 3 thousandths. So these were all finished, I would say, on the upper end of the scale. So they were a little on the loose side, which is probably a good thing if you're going to run it hard. So all of the rest of the pistons look fine except for that one. Definitely high-speed detonation, probably from a little too much timing advance. I think he's running 24-pound injector, so that shouldn't have been a problem. But yeah, definitely the end result was not great. Possibly one injector that wasn't working properly, but they were new injectors, but who knows, right? So that's kind of where we're at. We're going to order a set of forged pistons. They're going to be real close in weight to what the original forged pistons were on the engine. And I think we're just going to take it 40 over. We may even still have the rotating assembly balanced. It's probably not a bad idea. I think the replacement pistons this time around are going to be lighter than the originals by like 35 or 38 grams. I guess if they're lighter, it might be okay not to balance it. I know there's a lot of different opinions on that, and feel free to leave your comment on that. Also, I'm having a hard time finding a place near or in northern Alabama that doesn't charge a king's ransom to do balancing now. That used to be like a $250 job, I thought. And now what they're charging, it seems like that's what you used to be able to buy a used car for. So if you guys have a suggested source of some place that's in the neighborhood of reasonable, because it seems like everybody else has gotten a raise over the last 5 or 6 years, except for me, because the cost of everything seems to be up 40%, maybe 50 in some cases. So it would be nice to get a reasonable balance job. I'm not going to spend $1,000 to balance it. But if I can find some place that, is somewhere in the neighborhood of reasonable, if that exists anymore, feel free to leave a comment in the comment box. I'd like to know. And so that's where we're at on this. Let's go back to what we were doing, because I think it's going to be a whole lot more fun than what this is. Hey, just showing you the trigger action on this is nice and light with that Harbor Freight spring in it. Actually a little lighter than it was with the Mattel controller. That's a Hot Wheels one right there, and it had a slightly heavier feel. I think it had a bigger spring, but the result was the same. It failed. So I'm just going to put my D28 on there with the long wheelbase 440X2 and just kind of give it a spin around the track a little bit. Let me just take a slow lap around just to get her going first. And I kind of have to dog it a little bit. It's kind of hard to talk and record and run this at the same time, but it runs really good. Yeah, I got a little overzealous there. But this one runs good. I'm happy with it. It doesn't track quite as good as the shorter wheelbase, the true Tyco Camaros. I guess that would be this one here. So that one doesn't have Mattel on the side of the chassis. The other thing I noticed about these,
let me just kind of pan in right here. Might be able to get it okay-ish. The gears on them don't seem to be as robust on the Mattel version. This ring gear is actually a little thinner than it is on this one. This one's more robust on the actual Tyco version. And one of these, as a matter of fact, the chassis I'm using as an example here, this one wasn't usable because this gear is actually stripped out. You can turn it and the motor doesn't really turn. See that? And I tried adjusting it and it's just too far out of adjustment. And I noticed these other ones here, these are, one of these is a longer wheelbase. This is one of these Cars play sets that came with electric control or battery operated controllers. And these have the same style gear set in them as well. They're the thinner gears, and they don't seem to work as well. They're noisier, and they just don't seem to mesh as well. So the definitely the earlier Tyco flavor I think was better, just based on my limited experience on these. It's okay, but it's definitely not as good as when it was made by Tyco. But anyway, that's just my musings there. Y'all have a good day. When I come back, I'll try to do another video and show this, but I think I'm gonna have my hands full for the next couple of weeks getting Austin's Mustang squared away and get it back together. Hey, take care guys. Peace out.